Brad, we got this comment the other day on our YouTube channel, and it said, everybody should be paid for their labor. This is especially true in the film industry. Paying your dues, quote unquote, is a manipulation tactic used to exploit newcomers. Working for free is a good way to commit career suicide. It will get you labeled as an amateur and shunned by unions.
Okay.
What's your reaction to that?
But I know people who have that opinion. The dilemma in the film business, as competitive as it is where is the incentive for an employer in a market that is overcrowded with experienced people to pay an inexperienced person? That's the dilemma. And, I'm aligned with the ideology of that statement. I think it's a fair concept.
Yeah.
But practically, this is a business that because of the competition, people are going to do what they have to do to jump ahead. And a quick way that I know for people to get experience and build up their resume is to, volunteer and work on jobs. And you can certainly do that with your peers and students, but what are you going to learn from them? How much knowledge do they have to pass on? How impressive is that credit going to be? I can only speak for myself, but if I was in that position, and I was when I started out, my first job was a freebie. I worked on a passion project for some people in Houston, and they were professional filmmakers. So I would go out on the odd days that they were shooting, and I would volunteer. But I was learning from very experienced people. I had the opportunity to impress those people. So that some of those people are still friends, and I work with them to this day. Likewise, on some of my shoots with, I support my friends. If a friend of mine says I have a little short I want to make, or I want to do a spec project, of course I'm going to come, help you. And even if they offer to pay me, I don't like doing that. I don't like charging my friends for personal projects. If it's a commercial project, by all means, cut me in. And on things like that for crews, I typically, talk to students and mentees of mine, and I say, hey, you want to come out? And the reality is that I've had a lot of people, I've done this, 20 or 30 years, and they come out and the exceptional ones really bust their butts. And they learn and they pay attention and they impress everybody. And at the end of the day, people are getting their name and their numbers. And, somebody calls me and says, do you know a sharp PA? We're hiring. And I'm like, yeah, this person did a great job. So practically I find that, a mechanism that works. And if somebody has a better mechanism, if they have a mechanism by which an inexperienced person can get hired and paid over all the inexperienced people, or all the experienced people who are sitting around with nothing to do waiting for that call, I'd love to hear it. But to me, that's the dilemma.
Right, and I no disrespect to whoever left this comment, and I get what they're saying in the sense that, especially if you don't come from a situation where you can take time off and do free work, not everybody does, and I can respect that. That's a big factor in a lot of this. That you would feel maybe that, okay, I might be being used here if I keep showing up. At what point should someone say, okay, I've done enough free work, or is there never that point?
Well, it's not about doing or not doing free work. It's about doing it strategically. I'm 30 years into my career. I still do it for my friends, for clients who pay me and say, hey, I have a spec spot, but I don't have any money. Sure, I support, people. This is a business where we scratch each other's back. It's a question of, are you being taken advantage of? Is somebody being predatory? To me, that's the thing that you have to look at. And I would say to somebody who's like, oh, and the other thing I wanted to mention too, because you're saying they can't afford to do a free job. I was having a conversation just the other day with somebody that the film industry is a business. It's a business like any business. Your time is a commodity. And if you have a business, you have to invest in that business. Part of that is, paying union dues, paying for headshots, giving your agent 10%. The professional organizations, and some of it is the commodity of your time. If I have an opportunity to work with a director I really want to work with, because they're doing a film competition and I have nothing else to do. To me, I'm investing in the potential of building a relationship that's going to carry on to paying work. That's my intention. Now, if they keep calling me for freebies, I'm going to be like, well, you know, that well has run dry. And for a new person, you ask, when do you stop doing freebies? Well, I would counter by saying, if you're doing nothing but freebies and not getting called for paying work, you need to look at two things. One, are you doing freebies with amateurs and people who have no connections? Or two, are you maybe not doing a good job? Because if you are working with experienced people and you're busting your ass, there's a good chance that you're going to be getting called for work and you're going to be getting referrals. There's exceptions to every rule. So, you know, but I would just say, by and large, what I have seen in my years of mentoring people, and also, you know, again, I feel if somebody comes and donates their time on my project, I owe them something. And that something is, if they do a good job, I'll give them advice, I'll mentor them, I will look out for opportunities for them, I will try and bring them on paying jobs, I will recommend them, you know. But conversely, if they come and they show up and they don't bring it and they don't do a good job and they don't pay attention, I mean, I appreciate that they tried, but I can't in good conscience send that person to one of my paying clients because that's going to reflect on me. That's another thing too, is people always need to remember that if somebody ever recommends you, they're putting their reputation on the line. So it's not just, you know, if you get recommended, you don't show up and do a good job just for yourself. You do a good job for that person who recommended you, because if you do a crappy job, the next time that person wants to make a recommendation, the person's going to say, no, that last person you sent me wasn't so good. And so somebody you don't even know is going to miss out on an opportunity because you set a bad precedent.
Do you think it's a generational thing? Do you think maybe in the 90s there were less interns, or this is always how the film industry's worked?
You know, honestly, I think it's always how people have worked. There's so many stories, you know, probably back into the era of silent films, of people sneaking on set and somebody just mistook them for a crew person and put them to work, and somebody's like, you know, eventually they got paid. You know, it's an unorthodox business, and just intrinsically, it's an unorthodox business. Now, the perception from people from the outside is that we're all on holiday. You know, I have relatives who think I sit by the pool and drink frozen drinks with, you know, models fanning me every day that I'm not on set, which isn't true. I work harder on those days, you know, networking and hustling. But it's a business, and a lot of young people don't get that. They think, oh, I'm an artist, you know, which I get because I consider myself an artist too. But the rude awakening is that there's a lot of business in this. But because it's an unorthodox business, for instance, you know, I could show up on work in a t-shirt and jeans. You know, you can't wear flip-flops because they're unsafe. But there's not a quote-unquote dress code, although humorously and anecdotally, I'll tell you, there kind of is, because no matter where you go in the world, a grip looks like a grip and a director looks like a director. I don't know what it is, man, because I didn't get that memo, but I think it's very funny. But you know, it's an unconventional business, and I think creativity and originality and unconventional thinking is rewarded and celebrated. You know, just like when Spielberg, you know, went and squatted an office on the studio backlot. You probably know that story. You know, for instance, with resumes, people do resumes. If people ever give me a resume that looks like a corporate resume, I say, man, that's really wrong. And we talk about the points. And, you know, one of the fundamental points is that this is a creative business, you know. Get creative, do an interesting font, a creative layout, some color. Somebody gave me advice once, which I thought was brilliant advice. I was talking to them, I had a meeting, and, you know, I was talking about, you know, how should I present this thing? And they said, Brad, this is show business. Put on a show. And to me, that is like an overarching, defining qualification of almost everything I do, be it a resume or a website or a meeting, you know. And putting on a show involves preparation, it involves, you know, intention, it involves follow through, it involves thinking on your feet while it's happening. and I'm diverging a little bit, but the point that I'm getting back to is that it's always held its appeal. It's always kind of like, running off to join the circus. I think, there's a certain kind of people it especially appeals to, and these are, people who are in life, maybe the outcasts or the artists or the fringe people, or, they think differently, they see the world differently, and that's a valuable asset in this business. And again, I had one of my mentees once is a script supervisor. And when she was starting out, she got an IMDb Pro account. And she's, a very attractive young lady. And she said, I'm a little bit averse to put my photo up because, it kind of looks like a model and I don't want to give the wrong impression. And I said to her, this is a business where whatever advantage you have, you play it, If you qualify for a diversity program, by your gender or your ethnicity, if, like me, you've just got years of experience, with her, she's an excellent script supervisor, and that's fine. But you know what? If somebody hires her because she's got a cute photo on IMDb Pro, as long as they don't abuse and harass her, if that pushes her ahead of the competition and gives her the edge, I say, anything that is honest and has integrity, you don't want to cheat and be deceptive or abusive to anybody. But whatever your edge is, and everybody has a different edge. I mean, I could have a meeting with a producer and I've done my due diligence and I'm like, they like to ride horses. So I'm going to play that up. I'm going to play, I like horses. I love horses. I've ridden horses. And if that's my advantage, so be it. But anyway, I'm sorry. I believe I strayed quite a bit from your question.
No, I love it. I love when it sort of is circuitous and it goes back to our original point. So yeah, probably going back to vaudeville and the silent, people have been volunteering and then, hey, you're hired, but
people ran away from home for that stuff. There was no, there was no expectation of remuneration. It was like, I'm going to go join the circus. And some of those people had really hard lives. I mean, some of the people today have hard lives. I've had some hard weeks and months, it goes around. But it's a business where, again, that whole thing I was talking about in terms of creativity and originality, I mean, that's not necessarily in your visual expressions. That's also in your strategy. Again, Spielberg and his office squatting, or I go and I speak to college students and, 2 or 3 come up after class and say, I'd like to intern, I'd like to volunteer, Those are the guys who get invited.
And sorry, what is that Spielberg story? I'm not sure I know that one. Sorry.
Well, I wish I knew it a little bit better, but basically he was able to get on the lot and he just found an empty office and set up shop. And it's I'm sure the details are really good, but I don't have them fresh in my mind. It's a legendary story, but that was kind of how he got his launch before he got his first opportunity, which I believe was a Night Gallery episode with Joan Crawford. It's the one where she plays a blind lady. It's a great episode. I wish I could tell you the kicker. It's got a little, Twilight Zone-esque twist, but anybody who wants to see it, I'm not going to spoil it for them. But it's just that out of the box thinking. He thought of it, and 300 of his classmates didn't. And where is he and where are they? And that's just an example, and it can manifest in so many different ways. Just like the students. I mean, one of the things when I'm speaking to classes that I'm always tempted to do, and I kind of don't because it's a little cruel, but is to tell people, look to your left, look to your right. In 5 years, those people are not going to be in the business. Not meaning those specific people, but as a generalization, you find that there's tremendous attrition for a variety of reasons, But it's people just, it's an industry where staying in the game and pushing forward in and of itself is an advantage. But you just always want that thing, to be able to, what can I do that nobody else is doing? Because if all you're doing is what everybody else is doing, then you might as well be a penguin in a pack of penguins on an iceberg in Antarctica. You know, you want to be that penguin, you know, with the red bow tie that's jumping up and down and doing funny stunts, because all eyes go there, you know. And that's even true on set. You know, just like I said, I always notice when there's that one PA that, oh, you know, something needs to be swept up, zip. You know, oh, they need help moving something, zip. Can you go wrangle the background, zip. And I'm talking about a real person. There's one person that specifically that story comes from, you know, but I've seen other people do it. But it's like, you know, that's, you know, Johnny on the spot. Person who shows up before anybody else, person who leaves after everybody else. Very simple things, you know, and they have nothing to do with, you know, what you actually may know, whether you can tighten a C-stand or fill out a deal memo. But it's that attitude, it's that mentality. And you know, again, that's just a different manifestation of it. Or if you have that resume that's just got that super cute font and it's laid out in a way that I've never seen before, I'm like, wow, I'm going to remember that person. So put on a show.